Hello there, fellow rebels. I got another deck review today for you. Today I have a semi-budget and budget version of Tarkin All Space Yellow. So let's dig in. All right, so what inspired this deck is essentially during testing with my test group, we identified this as a potential top deck. And right now, this deck is actually being played in the Take the Initiative Top Cut tournament. So on my screen here, you can see a list of all the decks that are being played. I did a video on this already, but a YouTube channel by the name of, I believe, Swoop Racer. And I'll link them down below in the comments. Definitely go check them out. They're from overseas. They're not based in the United States. And they have a relatively newer YouTube channel where they focus on YouTube content. And this deck is pretty strong, and I really like it. I ended up making a version similar because there are some optimizations that I saw, and he has a video about that where he talks through that. I'll link that video down below, actually, instead of their channel, because you can go watch their video. This is definitely a budget version. I have a budget version today. And a not budget version. I'm going to be going over the non-budget version. The only difference is 2 cards, and it's going to be Darth Vader. Sadly, silly, ridiculous, expensive legendaries. So the version I have today is only $99 on TCG Player, and I can almost guarantee that you can build this deck by just picking up commons and uncommons from your either from your current collection or your local game store. And this could definitely take games. I think it's a very strong deck. And yeah, so let's dig in. So what's a little difficult about the meta right now is there is no meta. There's been no really big tournament to help us understand what's going on. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to build a deck that was consistent fast, but did not fizzle out. And the reason why that's the case is Green Sabine, for example, is a deck that is very, very fast, but doesn't fizzle out. It has Wrecker for top end, and it has Poe. You need top end. The question is how much top end in your deck. If you want to have a competitive deck, you can't just run a bunch of 1-drops, because once your opponent stabilizes, you can never impact the board anymore. And so you need to be able to impact the board early, middle, and late. The question is how much punch do you have middle, early, and late? Certain decks have little punch early, a lot of punch late, and that's how they win. And this deck is definitely more evened out, where it's got a lot of punch early, medium punch in the middle, and not very much at the end. I mean, they got a couple units there to help carry us to victory, or, you know, save us when we're in a pinch. So let's dig through each card, because this deck's actually pretty interesting. And this shell could evolve, and the concept of this deck could change, but have a lot of the same cards and just not play Tarkin. I don't know yet. And that's what's exciting about this right now is this deck has done well in testing. It actually won its first game in the Take the Initiative Top Cut tournament right now. And I probably will be playing that deck if it continues to win with my Sabine deck, which scares me because I think this deck can beat Sabine with this card. Swoop Down. Attack with a space unit. It gains Saboteur and can attack ground units for this attack. So this can only target space units, but you can attack base, you can attack face, and you can attack space. You can also attack through space, and you can attack ground. So you can attack basically everything in the game with Swoop Down. It lets you hit whatever you want. Very strong. The fact that you can punch through final damage through a Space Sentinel. You can kill a shielded client with this card. It also gives you +2 attack if you're attacking a ground unit, and -2 attack for the defender, which is something that exists on a different card that they put it on a 4-drop space unit. This is now just a 1-cost event. It is a rare. So yeah, interesting. I really like this card. I think that this card is incredibly strong. We will see this in constructed play in a variety of decks. You could see play in Boba Fett. Why? Set 1 Boba Fett, villainy Boba Fett. Why? It costs 1. So if you play this and Boba Fett kills a ground unit, Boba Fett gets to untap that resource on turn 2 or turn 3 or whatever. So it essentially costs 0 for that turn, depending on how they want to sequence their cards. So this card is just going to be super good. Do not sleep on this card. I think it's probably one of the best 1-drop events in set 2. So yeah, it's removal essentially by keeping your units protected and having no damage. So you can get around Tarkin Town, right? If you give -2, you may take 0 damage in return. Gives your unit Saboteur. Apparently, I don't know how to spell Saboteur. I was just going to leave that. That's the new way to spell it. And it allows you to trade up, right? And get rid of those problematic units, man. Like your opponent establishing a client would be a nightmare for this deck. Guess what? A pumped Tile End Fighter can cleanly kill up a Swoop Down or kill a client. Yeah, if you pump the Tile End Fighter turn 1, turn 2, you can play Swoop Down, attack for 5, and pop Shielded Saboteur. So these are both 1-drops. The reason why they're so good, ISB Agent's actually super good because you can play him and like ping anything for 1, so you can kill a Greedo, but then you can also pump ISB Agent. So obviously there's a couple cards right now that can shut this combo down, like Cloud Rider, which is kind of annoying, but you typically want to play the Tile End Fighter because your opponent is almost never going to have a turn 1 answer for that card, and you pump it right away with Tarkin. So either one becomes a 3-2 or a 2-4. I believe 2-4 is the best rate in the game at 1. R2D2 is a 1-4. So you get like a pumped R2 in a sense. It's interesting. And I think that's really strong. You get to build a big unit. And that a lot of times if these units survive, then you have a pumped unit that you can target with Overwhelming Barrage, which if it's a pumped unit and you give +2/+2 from Overwhelming Barrage, you can often wipe their entire board. And then, like I said, a 2-4 on turn 1 is currently, I think, like the safest rate in the game with ISB Agent. It's kind of a sneaky, strong play. And it can clean up units late game. The other 2 drops here are Snowtrooper Lieutenant, which is the poor man's Fleet Lieutenant. 2-drop, 2/2. When played, you may attack with the unit. If it's an Imperial unit, it gets +2/+0 for the attack. That's pretty good. You can hit it off of Darth Vader. And if you play Sneak Attack with Darth Vader, you can Sneak Attack in a Darth Vader and then play Snowtrooper Lieutenant targeting Darth Vader and attacking for 7 on 6 resources, which is very strong, similar to what we can do in Sabine. And that's why I'm playing Sneak Attack in this deck. Incinerator Trooper is crazy because if you have the initiative and you can pump this, or you can somehow play a Snowtrooper Lieutenant on turn 2, you can often kill their ground unit, no questions asked, with First Strike. You essentially deal your damage before they deal theirs, and if they die, they're dead, and they no longer deal damage back. And of course, these are Imperial units. All right, so Seasoned Shore Trooper filler, honestly, just 2/3 for 2. We need to have as many 2-drops as possible, and then Outland TIE Vanguard. I'm almost positive that this Outland TIE Vanguard was a set 1 card that they moved into set 2. Just like look at what it does. It's a 2/1. It's Imperial. Adds an experience token. Don't know why this wasn't in set 1. I feel like maybe they just moved it to set 2 because maybe this archetype was too strong in set 1. I'm not sure, but very strong card. I love playing this. It's sad that he can't give the token to himself because that would be a 3/2 in space. That would obviously make some legendaries they printed irrelevant. But yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of setup here. I call it the poor man's wing leader in a way. There's actually multiple wing leader style effects in this deck, which is very strong. Next are 2 other cards. So the deck that I featured from Swoop Racers, they're not playing some of these cards. Legal Authority. Why is this card good? Okay, it gives you pump to your toughness, which is very strong, and you get to capture an enemy non-leader unit with less power than it. Well, if you have a 1-drop that's pumped, you can often capture a problematic restore unit, a problematic force unit, because you have a 4/4 or a 4/3 out there, and you can just capture anything indiscriminately. And so Legal Authority is a 2-of in the deck. It's just really good. Also, if your opponent plays something like a Millennium Falcon, you can just like throw this on your unit and capture a ground unit, and then your guy has 4 or 5 toughness, and Millennium Falcon can't kill your space unit. That's the kind of stuff we got to do in this deck, right? There's a lot of cheesy ways our opponent can take us out of the space race, and Legal Authority is one way to capture and add that little, toughness to get bigger butts. And then Surprise Strike is just mad damage to the face. Yeah, so pretty good. And then Sneak Attack hits a lot of units and helps punch late game so you don't fizzle. Similar concept to Cunning Sabine or Cunning Boba. I've helped a couple Cunning Boba players optimize their deck against control. And one way to do that is to play Sneak Attack, where their removal, you can just get that final bit of damage in late game and then slap a Surprise Strike on a Sneak Attacked unit, get in for 8-9 damage and end the game. And that's exactly what we want to do with Sneak Attack. It allows us to play Darth Vader a turn early. I think it's not a vehicle, and we'll see in a second, this is a vehicle heavy deck, but we do need to have higher value plays. We can't just be playing common vehicles in the whole deck. The budget version is definitely playable. It can take a lot of games, but I found that Darth Vader answers some of our bad matchups. All right, so 3 drops here. We got the Lurking TIE Phantom. This card is beautiful. That hyperspace foil is going to look absolutely amazing. It's a 2/2 that attacks for 4 on 3 resources. Very strong and can't be captured, damaged, or defeated by enemy card abilities. We need this card in every game, right? We want to hit this card with all of our pumps if we can, because it's very, very immune to a lot of cheesy, if we can pump this with 2 experience tokens off of the next card I'm going to show in a couple seconds. We have a 4/4 in space that attacks for 6, can't be defeated, can't be captured, very hard to kill, almost guarantees a victory. And then the 7th Fleet Defender is a shielded unit, so that's another cushion for our experience tokens, and they're both Imperial. General Veers, it's a sneak attack target, late game pump, and help keep space alive so that we can play this and force our opponent, if they're in space, to not have the right combat math to kill our space units. And then the card that kind of is the engine of the deck is Triple Dark Raid. It searches the top 7 cards of your deck for a vehicle, ground or space, and you can play it for 5 less, and it enters play ready, and then you bounce it to your hand. So it's like a stronger version of Sneak Attack in a way, but it only hits vehicles. And there's a couple of cards we want to hit on here. We typically want to hit the 4-drop, the only 4-drop in the deck, which will give us experience tokens to our units. But we can also play this with the 8-drop, right? Dig for Reinforcement Walker, which we'll talk in a little bit, which can end up healing 6 life the turn it comes out because it enters play and can attack in the same turn, which can heal up to 6 life, which is very needed against Green Sabine. So this deck does have some built-in triggers against Green Sabine. That is if you live to the late game. That's what the Swoop Downs are for, to help us live to the late game and clean up their turn 1, turn 2 plays. I got a 1-of outmaneuver. Again, I found that because it's a heavy space deck, sometimes you just want to slap this down to shut them down for the whole turn on the ground arena. And playing multiple outmaneuvers feels weird, but this card is getting better because we're starting to get more decks that can play heavier in one arena. And I've even seen people play this as a space counter. I've seen it being played as a ground counter. It's actually in some of the top cut decks. I'm not sure yet, but it definitely feels like something we need against like a Poe. If they play Poe in any version of a hero deck, if we can shut them down the next turn before they get initiative or something like that, and then we can attack in for 12, 15 damage with our pumped space units, that's where we want to be. All right, TIE Advance. This is the #1 target in the deck for Triple Dark Raid and Sneak Attack. When played, give 2 experience tokens to another friendly Imperial unit. Pretty much hits every card in the deck. It's the Villainy Wing Leader, Triple Dark Raid target. You can sneak attack it in as well. Best turn to play is if you have a TIE LN Vanguard, you can play Triple Dark Raid, play TIE Advanced, pump your TIE LN to a 4/3 or 5/4, and then this TIE Advanced can kill something or bounce to hand, and then you can attack for 5. So you kind of have Sabine level plays in the deck. And in some ways, you're actually getting more damage on the scoreboard to their base than you can do in Sabine, because Triple Dark Raid puts this into play ready. Very all in eggs one basket, though. So I think being intelligent about when you give the experience tokens is going to be important. You don't always want to play it on the 1-drop because those things can be easily removed with a lot of removal spells, where the TIE Lurking Phantom just can't be hit by a lot of that stuff. All right, so the 5-drop in the deck is Overwhelming Barrage. It's kind of why you're in green. Give a friendly unit +2/+2, then it deals damage equal to its power divided as you choose among any number of units. Fun fact, unfortunately, Overwhelming Barrage does kill Lurking TIE Phantom because it's the unit doing the damage, not an event or an effect. And so it is combat. It's not combat damage, it's unit damage. And so unfortunately, it does get around its fake hexproof protection, whatever you want to call it. But it's a very good card into every matchup. It's a good tool. It adds pump to board and kills problematic units. You want to play this on 5 resources almost every time if you have units out. It also comes out on the Tarkin deploy turn. Gladiator Star Destroyer, it's a Sentinel. You can give either arenas a temporary Sentinel. It's Imperial unit and it's a 5/6. It's really good for Triple Dark Raid. Just giving us options off a Triple Dark Raid is kind of what we want to do in the deck. And then Darth Vader. So I didn't have this in the first version of my deck, and now that I have it, I think we need it. Unfortunately, there are some just ground decks that can just really spend the first 4 or 5 turns of the game shutting us down. And I'm looking at Yellow Boba. This deck struggles against Yellow Boba because bounce works on every unit in the deck. Darth Vader does help us kind of come back, where Darth Vader can come in and clean up a unit, stick around, and play another unit so we can reestablish board presence and reestablish board dominance. And Darth Vader is a card that lets you kind of do that. So digs for so many answers, adds units to the board, can string combos, and it's a sneak attack target, which is why I added sneak attack to the deck. I only have 2 in the deck, but I found that, man, I've never sneak attacked a Darth Vader, but that's pretty good. You can still ambush with it. You just get it out a turn early, and you are down a card of the sneak attack, but then you are playing a free card off of Darth Vader, and you're going to hit something, right? You have so many hits in the deck. The odds are, never tell me the odds. They're in your favor. So I think Darth Vader is an include in this deck. It's the top end in ground. You only play 2 of. It's not like you're playing 10 7-drops, right? You're playing 2, so it's fine. And then lastly, we got 3 reinforcement walkers. Why 3? Because we can play Triple Dark Raid on 6 resources and pull this in. We add a 6/9, oh boy, to the board, and we can, when played on attack, look at the top card of your deck, either draw it or discard it and heal 3 damage from your base. So you can gain 6 life, and that's pretty strong against Sabine. You can replay it next turn for more life gain if at 8 resources, if you can get there. So this deck doesn't play resupply, but it's definitely a pretty cheeky play. It can kill a problematic unit. You can just go 6 to the face as well. And just you gaining 6 and then you doing 6 is a 12-point life differential. That's pretty good. And then Grand Moff Tarkin, here he is. He's actually got a really good showcase and, in my opinion, much better than regular art. Pumps almost everything in the deck. Somewhat aggro deploy at 5. He's a 2/7. He's got a big butt, hard to kill, and adds a ton of value to the deck. I think this is a good leader, and I think that there's a version of this deck. I'm not saying it's this one definitively, but this is a budget deck. Most of you, if you've been playing during set 1, you could probably build this deck without buying any cards, which is exciting because I know that some of the singles are expensive. So if you're looking for a budget deck, this is it. The Darth Vaders add about $120 to the deck. If you take those out and add in 2 more top-end vehicles instead of Darth Vader, you put yourself around... I mean, you can even throw in Cobb Vanth in this deck. That might even be what you want to do. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about Cobb Vanth because you can sneak attack Cobb and attack. He dies, and you can go get another unit. Actually, I don't think you can. No, you can't do that. Don't do that. The triggers don't work. So, yeah, I think this deck is quite good, and it will be, in my opinion, during set 1. Green Sabine early on was considered a budget deck. You could put together a Green Sabine budget deck for $60, $70 when the game first came out. Of course, cards just went bonkers expensive. But I think that this is a budget deck you can play. I think you can get games. It's very fun. It's combo-y. It digs for card. You're digging for cards. You're cheating in units. You're pumping stuff. It's doing a lot of things. It does have some weaknesses, and you definitely got to play to your outs in that sense. But overall, I think this deck is quite strong. With Triple Dark Raid, you can string those together and just really hit for massive damage. So the sideboard here, playing an extra Darth Vader in the sideboard. Of course, if you don't have Darth Vaders, you can just put in like a Relentless or something like that instead. Probably would just take Darth Vader out for a Relentless, which I think is like a couple dollar rare. Prepare for takeoff to dig for vehicles against control so I can get that Lurking TIE Phantom. Asteroid Sanctuary to slow down Sabine and gives shields to our space units that can trade so that we can kill their A-Wings and stuff like that. Change of Heart for control. Put 2 more Gladiator Star Destroyers for the aggro matchup, and just nice to have more Sentinels definitely could work on the sideboard quite a bit here. Once there's a meta, sideboard stuff will be more important, but I wanted to provide one for the sake of the video. And then Yularen, just a filler for aggro. 2/3 that heals 1, potentially more if they don't kill it. All right, so let me know what y'all think. The link is down below to the deck list. I have the budget version and the non-budget version linked. I hope you like this video, and I hope to see this deck because I think this deck does have legs. I think there's many versions you can run. I'm sure there's a 100% vehicle version you could run to hit 100% on Triple Dark Raid. It's a very fun deck. It has a lot of flexibility. It can play control with Swoop Down. It can play overwhelming barrage. It can do all that kind of fun stuff. So thank you for watching. I will be announcing the giveaway winners today, actually Wednesday, July 10th, and I think I'm giving away multiple packs of sleeves here from set 2. I'm also giving away 2 token boxes they're not game checking tokens, but they're like so they're 2 winners. There'll actually be 2 winners. One person will be getting tokens and a token holder. Another person will be getting sleeves and a token box for Gamegenic tokens. So thanks so much, and definitely go check out that video where I opened the press kit. That's where the giveaway is. So you have until probably 5 p.m. today to kind of still do that. Thanks so much for watching, and talk to you soon.